In today's video, I'm going to teach you the number one thing that the new moon in Scorpio is asking you to do, and then 4 ways of how you can accomplish it. So stay tuned. Let's go! Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Harmony. I'm a twin flame expert helping twin flames around the globe face fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Welcome to my weekly glow show. And if you're new to my channel, I want to welcome you, and also make sure to subscribe so you get hit the notification button so you know when my glow shows are going live. And today I want to share with you the number one thing that you're being asked to do during this new moon in Scorpio energy. And that number one thing that you're being asked to do is to face your shadow side, to face your shadows. And the reason you're being asked to do that is because a combination of this new moon in Scorpio with the retrograde that we have, that we're already in pre-shadow 4 of Mercury retrograde coming up on October 31st, but we're already coming in and pivoting into the pre-events of that. And on this new moon, they kick in really high force leading up to the retrograde. Everything has transits. And so this is happening to help you uncover your personal hidden truths. And so to uncover those truths really means that you have to face the shadows inside of you, but in order to accept the shadows within you as part of you. Because in this process of this ascension journey, we're creating a new version of ourselves. And you're being asked during this time to reflect on who do you believe you are going forward, to identify and find out who you are and own your own truths, not the truth of other people. And another thing that's happening in this alignment of energy is the new moon's going to come in and oppose Uranus. And there's a lot I could say about that, but I think the biggest point that's important is it's going to come in, it's complete polarity opposite, and it's going to collide in such a way that's going to create shocking events with people, experiences you're going to have, events that could be put you in situations to create, even freak accidents or freak things that are going to come out and just really shock you. And that shock is a part of a trigger that's to help you find more of you. And so those are the big energetic portions of that. So at the end of the day, you're being asked to go deep within to uncover this truth of who you are so you can recreate who you are as you go forward. So I want to teach you today 4 things that you can focus on during this timeline, because this knowledge and wisdom is power. And when you know what's happening and why it's happening, you can use this energy to your advantage rather than allowing it to overpower you and think you're going backwards that you're not doing. You're only revisiting it in this timeline to implement those new patterns of action as you go forward for creating your new self, not uncovering your dinosaurs anymore. This energy that we've shifted into gave us an opportunity to rise into different timelines of our highest good, rather than having to revisit so much of really deep, deep karmic past. But as I've mentioned about the childhood programming and healing those childhood wounds, in my last video that I'm going to post for you, the number one thing that I'm going to start with here is you're redefining the relationship with yourself so that you can know who you are. And that means that you can connect to, now, what are your values? What are your virtues? And how can you become more vulnerable through the connection of yourself in order to go deeper within yourself? And these childhood wounds are helping us redefine our relationship with ourselves, not with other people, not with what we've been pre-programmed from our past of the belief systems, the patriarchs, the cultural conditions, and all the things that we've been taught that are no longer our belief systems. So in this timeline of this new moon, you're going to be triggered in such a way that it's probably going to test your values. What do you believe now? What are your values going forward? What do you want in your relationship going forward? What do you have with integrity within yourself of how can you stay in moving forward with more love rather than the fear, and jump the timeline from fear to love, and also to know that in the virtues that of our past, of the virtues or the lessons that we've chose to learn, that in this timeline, in this era, it's not so much about having to sacrifice and get lessons to go forward, but it's more about, as I go forward, how do I want to face these lessons with a different perspective, a different way to handle those lessons, so that I don't have to keep diving deep in such a way that it debilitates me, that in the end, all I'm doing with this is finding and discovering my own power, taking back your power. And so you may be confronted with situations that are going to make you take back your power during this time, or be a test for you to take back your power. And also to, like, another thing that will really help you to find who you are is kind of like reviewing those childhood programs of what you've been told and what you've been taught, and to realize that, like letting go of what is not your truth. And then if somebody comes in and tests that truth for you, letting go of the belief of others, and to use that as a test to stand firm in your truth of what resonates. So if it's not resonating with you, what somebody else is, placing on you, then it's time to, go deeper within and feel what you feel. Because in this aspect of these shadows that we're hitting in that, we're being asked to look at even our habits and our structure and our relationship patterns, as well as the past programming, as I was saying. So also I want to say something about that, because I'll make a link below for last week's video in regards to the reprogramming your childhood wounds that I have been taken through really deeply over the last couple weeks again. However, I've been working on, of course, a lifetime, but very deeply, actively working to heal with my parents for the last 5 years. And it wasn't a bad experience even to begin with. It was just the imprints of what I took on and the programming of what I took on. And I've learned that it came down to they had so much love. I didn't know how to receive that love, and to be open to that kind of depths of love that I came in armored and didn't know how to receive it. So rather than, battling with my belief system and my truth, and, as far as, like, say, with my dad and his strong belief system of pointing out right or wrong, I basically just stepped back, let him have his say, and never learned to set boundaries for my own self and my own truth with my parents. So in all my relationships, I haven't learned to set those boundaries and truths. So last week, I told you my father was in the hospital and I had to go out of town. Well, it couldn't have been constructed any better, any more perfectly divine, because everything that I had been going through personally, everything I taught clients and that they've seen them go through personally, which, by the way, thanks to everyone for the messages I've received and how powerful last week's video was in this, because so many people were healing with their parents in a 3D live situation like me last weekend, having and sitting down and having conversations about things that's never been talked about, and how you're reprogramming that, and how, for me, I was reprogramming that and saying, this is what I learned, this is the battle inside of me, this is what I'm trying to relearn, and this is what it taught me, and I'm going through all of this aspect of letting go. And my mom even was like, wow, that sounds like post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I'm like, it has been. Like, I literally physically, and that's why I've been doing so much physical healing. And in addition to that, I have seen even personally other people coming in to try to cross those boundaries with their truth versus my truth, for me to set those boundaries for my own truth as well. And it's all perfectly in alignment, which is, coming into my own truth even greater than ever, because I can see it unfold and play out with exactly what I saw to begin with. So Number one is redefine your relationship with yourself and, be open to teachers and experiences to help you find those shadows so you can reprogram whatever that event is in the past, whether it be your childhood, whether it be your habits, whether it be your relationship patterns, which mimic your relationship with your parents. So, number two is step out of chaos. I have been seeing this over and over, these cycles and loops that basically take us through a repeat for a test, not so much the repeat to revisit and going backwards. So it's these loops, so basically opportunities to implement your new programs, your new patterns. And then also what I'm finding now, as I've done that enough, that I am seeing that the patterns and the loops that I might be still cycling and circling in are not even my loops. They're the projections of others. There's situations that I've been in where it's the other person going through the loop that I'm writing the loop with them. That then basically what I see in that is it's time to step out of the loop. It's time, it's not a running at this point. In the past, we could have looked at certain things like that as running because we weren't getting the lessons. But the lesson now I see is that it's the boundary of my own truth that doesn't match. And I don't have to keep going down memory lane. And I don't have to keep being tested over and over. And I don't have to keep going through all the chaos and the revisiting loops of patterns I've already learned. I've already learned them. So, break the loop. Step out of the loop. Claim your own power. Take it back. Don't take on the projection of others. Don't let others place their projection on you of what they define you to be or who you are or who you're not. Because only you know your truth. And you're here to redefine that truth for yourself and create and redefine that relationship with yourself so that you can create that new program within you for your life and what do you want. So number three is focusing forward, which is what do you desire? What do you want to create going forward? And how do you want to do it based on really defining who are you now? What do you want? Because, I used to say this as I went through this the first time around through the ascension process. When we recreate that new identity, it's like going about our thoughts, feelings, patterns, and actions of putting a square peg in a round hole. We still try to do things our old patterns or old ways when it's coming in, but everything's changed. So now that everything has changed, the way you used to handle something doesn't work anymore. The pattern you used to use or the habit or the part that you mastered and how it worked before is just no longer working. So you're going to need to, as you focus forward, basically looking at who are you. And then that leads into number 4, cross-pattern programming. Okay, and what that means is we're reprogramming for this redefining the new identity as we step out of chaos and realize we don't have to continue those loops because that's the old programs. And if we want to focus forward and who do we want to become and what do we desire and how do we want this program to create going forward, then we have to take action in such a way that reprograms the pattern. And the cross-pattern programming is something I'm teaching clients in my online course that's coming for this Reprogram Your Childhood Wounds, as well as the program I've created. Again, you can find some links below. And also there's a link below, I didn't mention this, that's going to be for the free resource I mentioned in the last video in order for you to go through the rebirthing process of why you chose your parents to begin with for these programs and patterns and the things that you're breaking and what was your number one life lesson in this life. Because until you master that, until you then reprogram those programs and find the common link, that's the thread between all of your relationships, for me right now is setting boundaries so I can claim my own truth, not take on the projection and the truth that other people believe for me that are my truth and that doesn't exist for where I am in my new identity. None of it exists at one point in time, but it no longer exists. So in the cross-pattern programming, what I suggest you do is do the opposite of what you've been doing. And I have been put to the test of this over and over and over, and I fought it in some, patterns too with this. And I'll be the first to tell you, you know, I am a spiritual rebel sometimes, and it takes me a while to let go enough to do all these things, but I do it and I learn it. And that's why I can, you know, if I'm going to talk this talk, I can promise you I'm walking the walk with it. So in doing the opposite of what you've been doing, for instance, if you have been basically in a thought, a feeling, or emotion sending you back to your shadow and not accepting that shadow, all right, say it's sending you back where you've been and you're in fear of going backwards, or you're in fear of repeating the same pattern, or you're in fear to, like, say for me, it's been about like going back to adding structure. And we're being asked to bring all this into the 3D form and into the reality now, which means we're coming down a notch from the 5D energy back into grounding all of this. And to do that is calling for action that we need to be taking to implement all of these things. And for me to get that in, create some structure to get in everything I need to do. And I was such a structured person that adding in some structure like makes me resist, right? So, and I've mentioned this before because it's a big one of mine and it's one that I'm still working on, but it's getting better. And so basically, you know, coming back to the other side of implementing some structure. And I've been saying this, it's almost like that post-traumatic stress syndrome. I told this to a client yesterday. It is kind of like my dad being introduced back from the war into reality and having post-traumatic stress syndrome of how to re-navigate life after having been traumatized or been in the war. You know, we've been at war and we've been traumatized. Now it's how can we integrate as a human being and go forward in this new way of new life with what we love to do and reprogram this trauma that we've been going through. That's why I'm also creating a program for that, because I'm living it right now. It will be coming eventually when it's ready and all that stack of creation that I'm doing. But at the end of the day, this contrast that this moon is taking us into these shadows is to find our shadow side, as I said, so that basically we can accept the shadow side, so that we can then like let go of the fear of the going backwards, but find neutrality, harmony, and balance in our programs or our actions. And so the thing I would, you know, recommend in that, if you've been doing something one way and you keep being presented the same loop and you're doing the same thing, you might want to do the opposite to get out of the loop, because the opposite will pull you out of the loop. And that's where I'm seeing myself pulling out of the loops by doing the opposite things that I had been doing. And it might sometimes feel like not the right thing to do at the moment or not, but it doesn't even matter, because it's what you need to do to stay at peace in the moment. And the end of the day, as opposites come into our opposite sides, our shadows and our light, we're finding neutrality within us and within that center point, within our own belief system, who we are, and living that out in full color of all of our sides. So that's why, you know, as we redefine who we are, we're tapping into sides of us we've never known before. And that's scary. And that's where we need to redefine our values and our virtues and become more vulnerable, to be open, real, and seen. And it's a scary thing, especially when you're tapping into those shadows. So again, thank you so much for just showing up, and may you, you know, face these shadows during this time and do it with grace, with this power and this wisdom and this knowledge that can help you do it from a softer side. Use that as one of your cross pattern programmings to choose to do this moon as deep as Scorpio can be, and as dark as those hidden truths can be, and as scary as those shadows can be. Choose to face them in a way that's differently, without allowing the fear to rob you. You take control of that and realize it's only a side of you that you're being asked to stop resisting and to accept. And you can collect that part of you, and you can connect to that part of you as you reclaim who you are and your truth and what you came here to do, not anyone else. not anyone else. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. All right? So sending you all loads of love. Be sure to like, comment, share the shine, and make sure to check out all the resources, the free ones, and all the ways you can glow forward with me below. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.